I'm not going to reveal to you who's in the Canary Islands and who's in Dubai out of our lads, but it's fair to say we're going up with a loaded team, yeah, with a strong team, which we have to be. I think last year was the first time in how many years we went up there? 8 or 9 years. So we understand the challenge, Chris.
Thank you.
There was a very interesting scenario before the Six Nations about how to manage. You've worked very closely with England. Coming out of the Six Nations and then he having Tom, are you happy that he was looked after the way you liked it?
Yes. The short answer is yes. Like he's an international player and he's their player, so they rightly have the dictatorial rights of how many minutes he plays. But there was probably a few occasions where, we went to 80 minutes and he shows he can play 80 minutes. Personally, if I was looking at his longer term plan and him getting 100 caps for England, I'd be managing those game minutes within the Six Nations as well. But he's reported that he's feeling good. He's trained well, and he'll need a week off in the next 3. But he's on fire, and there's no issues with his hips.
Fantastic. And Ben, it's always funny, isn't it, when people sound surprised at what Ben does. It's not a surprise to you guys, is it?
Not to us. I don't think anyone who watches the Premiership. The international players that are more widely recognised and their game's more in the spotlight, isn't it? So if they have a poor game or a good game, then they get plaudits and criticism from on high and low respectively. So everyone understands the levels that Tom can get to, but the wider world, I guess, the wider rugby audience that doesn't watch the Premiership has not seen Ben Curry in the form that he's in. We've seen it week in, week out. So now it's out there. The cat's out the bag.
But you must be delighted that he got those opportunities and was able to deliver what you know he can do. I mean, every single time he played, he's stealing forward and being intensely physical, which is trademarks.
Yeah, and I'm happiest for him, Chris, because it has been not a struggle. It's been an uphill battle for him to get into the England team, to step out from the shadow, and he's clearly done that. That's a credit to him, the amount of time and how he's applied himself on the mental aspects of the game, flicking between the environments, on shelving the pressures and the expectations that he's had on him, and just playing free. And these are kind of his words. He's playing what's in front of him, and not over-prescribing or overthinking the things that other people require of him. That's me inclusive. He's just, so at the moment, like, less is more in communication with him. It's just great to see. Him and his brother, gives you that warm feeling as a coach, seeing them win together, start together, and then win games like France. He said that was one of his best rugby memories ever. And he achieved that in the Six Nations. So he's come back in just flying. And for the minutes that Tom did play, Ben didn't play, so that aids us.
In terms of 2 other warm feelings, we've had one chance to give Roebuck the opportunity to show what he can do coming up his right forwards and the strength he has, but then George coming on Cardiff and doing George things.
I think Finn Smith, rightly so, has got the credit he deserves in the Six Nations. He's looked the all-round complete fly half. I do think out of all the lads that played, George Ford's cameo was the best. He looks so sharp. He silenced some of the critics around his ball-playing ability with those 2 assists, and really good to go to the boot and find his mate on that up and under. I honestly think in the next 12 games he'll prove his worth, and he could put his foot. He could make a stake for the Lions, for those that are in the know. I think more realistically, he'll force himself back into that England team.
Roebuck?
How about him? How about that boy? I rang him up on Wednesday. I missed him, and I thought, well, that's it. I won't speak to him. Like, everyone's going to be calling him up. You know, the press will be all over him. And he called me back 10 minutes later, and it was just like we were having a walk around the playground. We just had a giggle, and I was asking him what trainers he's wearing on the day, and if I have to buy him stuff if he scores 3 tries and all that. Dead relaxed, really up for it. There was no hint of nervousness. Fortified by the fact he had 4 of his mates with him. 3 were starting on the day. Again, how they've managed him has been really good. He's come back, as we spoke about this, he's come back, he's taken on feedback, he's developed his game, and it could be seen as like a genius stroke, couldn't it, to unleash him at that point in time, given the form that it was in. But clearly they've been really honest with what he had to improve upon, and he's done it. I'll say again, like his superpower, Chris, is what he does in the air, and he got 3 or 4 balls back, didn't he? He's improved his defence, but I think his X factor now is his power through contact. You know, he's not. He can go on the outside, but he's not your Faywa Bosso. He's not your Slight Home, your jinxy kind of hot stepper. He cuts an angle and he runs a hard line and he powers through contact, and that's an extra level to his attacking game that he's developed recently.
Finally, to me, while that was all going on, the announcement that the Sale fans have been delighted about Rugby.
Yeah.
Was that an easy one to get over the line? Was there a lot of chatter from other clubs to him? What was the scenario about getting that?
We heard a while ago that there was offers from like Exeter, Bath, maybe Quins might have been in there as well. And I just went to him, as I do with them all, like, come on, let's straight shoot this. What's going on? And he said, well, they've come in and offered. I'm like, well, he said, but I would never entertain an offer before speaking to you guys, us, that is, because he wanted to stay and play for us. And we agreed that we wanted him to get back on the field and get back into form, because then he doesn't feel like he's been lowballed. He can come to the table near market value and he'll be happy with the contract that he signs, rather than maybe thinking that he could have signed it in a better and a stronger position. So that was the delaying of the negotiations, the contract. Not that we didn't want him or he didn't want to be here. It was just to give him a fair shot at what he rightly deserves to earn. So in the end, it was easy. He came back, he played just before the Six Nations, and we did it within a week.
And all you hope now is he'll get a run. Without any...
Yeah, that's our challenge, keep Rafi on the field. Yeah.
Fantastic. Thanks very much, I'll see you on Friday.
Cheers, Chris.
Just to clarify, Al, is there a difference in terms of those returning England players? Is there a difference in terms of the resting, the management for, say, Tom Curry, who played most of the minutes, compared to, say, a Bevan Rod who didn't play? Is there a difference in terms of how they're managed when they come back in?
Yeah, well, yes, of course there is. The toughest challenge is getting them streamlined and back into the fold. The values and the principles of what the environment and the game model at home requires. That's the difference. The transitional time, the teething period, and that differs depending on where the head and where the body's at. And again, those two things are interlinked if we want to get spiritual about it. If it's like that peak end effect, isn't it? Like, that's a psychological term where you only remember the best times, the worst times, and the end of times. You know, everything else in the middle becomes a bit of a blur. So they had some really good results and finished really strong. So they come in motivated, and there's that ability to take that momentum, take that energy that they've had at the back end of the Six Nations, and roll with it back into the Premiership, unless they played every game and most of the minutes, in which case they probably need a rest just to let the bodies recover.
In terms of a customary injury update, rather than going through player by player, because we could be here forever if that's the case, who is not available due to an actual injury that's preventing them from being available?
Yeah, Dan Dupree, Raf, Luke James, Nick Schoonert, Tommy Taylor. They're the long-termers that you know about. That's it. from top of my head.
In terms of some of those, Dan and Rafi, just kind of shorter term, few weeks?
Yeah. That's the hope, yeah.
And then with Nick Shonett, Tommy Taylor, they've been out for quite some time. Are we kind of close to them being returning, or are they still way off?
Not from my understanding.
Couple of new signings have been announced since we last spoke. Nathan Jabulu and Marius Lowe. Just kind of give us a bit of a quick insight into sort of why they were players that you really wanted to bring on board. Well,
first and foremost, they wanted to come. You know, they enjoy how we play the game, what we're doing, what we're building. I see it as a really exciting opportunity to go on coin the well-used expression, bit of a journey. But we, as well as we're doing, and I know we can do better in the Premiership. You know, I'm not denying that in terms of our standing at present. There is still so much growth with this group, given the demographic, and they wanted to be part of that. And there's a lot of buzz around it. It was in the press with Simon selling his business, probably one of the best resource clubs in the land, and they're in it for the long haul, like forever. You know what I mean? And players want to come to a club that's not in there for the short term, but for the long term success of a region, which is what we're talking about internally. Obviously, that starts on Friday. The focus has to be Friday. Those aspirations are far too lofty and wide to be thinking about every week. But in particular, Nathan. Look, I was so almost surprised by the maturity and the drive and the clarity that he had around what he needed to do for his game to get into the England team and to play well for us. As a 21-year-old, probably one of the best conversations I've had with a young player in and around that. And this drive is to play for England, and he sees young front row internationals consistently getting into England from our organisation. The fact that he's played with a lot of those young lads who are in his age demographic. He's played with Asher, he knows Bev, Ty. Like, he sees them coming through, and he wants to be part of that pack, which will be the best pack in the Premiership in a year or two time, if not the back end of this season. He wants to be part of that. And he is a specimen, like physical freak from what I hear and what I see, so he fits well in with our fast twitch front rowers that we like to recruit. Marius Lowe has got the best, if some of the best, collision statistics either side of the ball, both in defence and attack. You look at the Gauteng backs line and they tear it up, and they've got some great players like Van Wyk and Edwil van der Merwe, but it's his work on the inside that makes them look good on the outside. We probably missed a little bit of a bang, a little bit of someone who can dent through the midfield this year. Not missed it, but we haven't found someone who's been able to consistently find form there without injury. This guy gives us all of that. He's their captain. He's a great leader. He's good mates with the South Africans, so he's got a support base here, and he fits into this. We don't have a lot of foreign players. And it's difficult to amalgamate different cultures, as we've seen this year with our failing with Wasaya, from different backgrounds. But when you've only got a couple, which is Northern English, and South African, of a mould, which I find their values and often their kind of hard work and gritty mentality seem to dovetail together so well. It's an easy fit for us, an easier fit. We have a better understanding of how we can motivate and assimilate them as part of the group.
Chris mentioned Rafi's new contract, others, Tom Roebuck, Asher, really have all signed new contracts in recent weeks. How are kind of other contract talks, contract situations going with some of the other key guys?
Yes. Yeah, no, yes, no. That's a good answer, isn't it? You'll find out about the odd one or two signings. We've done all of our retention and recruitment for this year, but only just recently. we're happy with the squad we've got moving forward, and all will be revealed in good time, Kieran.
Just going back to Nathan, he hasn't played much for Harlequins in recent months, and one might speculate that maybe ever since they found out that he might be going to the club, therefore that might be... Has there been any talk of potentially bringing him in with immediate effect, or has that not been a conversation that's been had with Harlequins?
No, we've had it, and straight back from Harlequins. Like, they don't want to give us an advantage. Said they might need him towards the back end of the season, but as soon as he let them know, and it was like back in October, wasn't it? November. It's pretty easy to see when the timing of him stepping out of their squad and telling them that he wanted to do something for him.
Just one final one from me. You must be bloody excited about, in particular, the front row stops. I mean, you think Asher, Bevan, bringing in Jabulu, Ralph McCacker and Ty Raymond have been really, really good through the England under-20s. Like, you must be ecstatic with having, for example, those 5 who are all 24 and under, who are just going to get better. For front rowers as well, they're only going to get better with more experience. You must be absolutely thrilled with those stocks.
Are you, Kieran? You sound bloody excited and thrilled.
I sound excited, and you're working with them every week.
Yeah, we when we were recruiting 3 years ago, we looked at our succession and we didn't have a lot of props in it, particularly tight-head props. So we went on a bit of a prop idol project. And because we've got so many clubs where we're able to facilitate their development, and this is always, we don't want to warehouse players, but we wanted to give them an opportunity to grow, and props generally develop later on, you know, as they physically grow into the boot, so to speak. So we just looked for the best props around, probably at all the age groups coming through. You know, Asher was there, Ty was 18 when he left Leeds, and of course he's a free agent from Leeds, so we can go anywhere. Ralph we picked up from London Irish. Patrice, we developed our own. Patrice is the under-20s prop who's done really well, who's gone to Doncaster, so he's out on loan at Doncaster. Bev was always in the ranks, but Toomey is another one that we're looking. You know, when Toomey's maybe, he could compete now and do well now, but I want him to dominate. He might be like 6 months or a year off, and then we get recruitment opportunities for people who come on the market who are maybe a little bit older and a little bit more experienced and probably a little bit more ready for the Prem. And our philosophy is like, no, like we've backed him for this long, we'll keep the pathway open for them. So, you know, in 2 or 3 years' time, they'll all be kind of homegrown, 1, 2 and 3. I mean, 1, 2 and 3 in terms of not just position in the front row, but depth, 1, 2 and 3 depth-wise. We want to be, who've come through our academy, and you know, without blowing the trumpet too loud, I do believe that these guys, and it's not me, it's the athletes that we've got, and how they're driving each other, because they're all of a very similar nature. They're very athletic, like high mobility, good feet, fast twitch players. It could usher a new era of what a prop should be able to do. Like scrumming's always been at the forefront of that, but now tackle and move and carry and ruck and, you know, and have an impact not just at set piece. All of these guys can do that, and that's intentional. Like this is 3 or 4 years in the making. So thrilled, really impressed. I didn't expect them all to come through as well as they have, because every now and again people just drop by the wayside. But every one of them is making good in terms of where they are right now and where I want them to be, where they want to be in 2 years' time.
Cheers, Al. Thank you.
Cheers, Kieran.